There's a certain quiet joy in finally settling down after decades of early mornings, commutes, and obligations. The simple act of coming home to a place that's yours, truly yours, feels like the end of a long journey. I'd imagined retirement would come with peace. Maybe a bit of gardening, watching the seasons change from the porch swing. The sort of calm where you hear the wind more than traffic. Where neighbors wave but don't hover, and where you can go a whole day without needing to say much at all. That's what I thought I was buying when I moved into Oakwood Heights, a tidy little community with modest homes and old oak trees that cast long, thoughtful shadows by late afternoon. The kind of place that reminded me of the neighborhoods I knew as a kid. Back when mailboxes had actual character, and people left their doors unlocked. I wasn't looking to make waves. I was just looking for a little space to breathe. So, imagine my surprise when I walked to my front door one morning and found it sealed shut with duct tape. Layer upon layer, like some deranged art project. It stretched across the doorframe like a spiderweb of pettiness. And right in the middle, covering the whole mess, was a bright pink HOA violation notice. I pulled at the door handle, met with resistance. They must have used an entire roll. Most people would have been furious. Me? I actually smiled. Because Patricia Summers, self-proclaimed queen of the Oakwood Heights HOA, had just made the biggest mistake of her meddlesome little life. I pulled out my phone and started recording, documenting every ridiculous strip of tape, every angle of this bizarre imprisonment. According to the notice, my home was now temporarily uninhabitable due to unauthorized renovations, and I was prohibited from entering or exiting until proper permits were obtained. The irony was rich. Patricia had no idea who she was messing with. No idea at all. Just 3 weeks earlier, I'd moved in quietly, without fanfare. The house was in decent shape, but I wanted to spruce it up a little. Fresh paint on the shutters. A couple new flower beds. A replacement mailbox. I worked evenings, mostly after my day job, careful not to make noise or disrupt anyone's routine. That's when she found me. She came striding up to the edge of my lawn, clipboard in hand, oversized sunglasses perched in her overprocessed hair, despite it being cloudy. She introduced herself with that particular brand of faux authority I've learned to spot from a mile away. Apparently, my work van parked in my own driveway was a violation of subsection 12.3. I explained politely that I used it for work. I even offered to read the guidelines. She wasn't interested. Told me ignorance wasn't an excuse and proceeded to criticize my mulch color and the placement of my shrubs. According to her, they were 2 inches too close to the sidewalk. I thanked her and said I'd take a look. What I didn't mention was that I'd already read every single HOA document before signing the mortgage. I knew my rights. I knew I wasn't breaking any rules. The harassment started small. Daily walks past my property, clipboard in tow, snapping photos of my mailbox, my lawn, my recycling bin. Petty violation notices followed, claims my grass was too long by a 1/4 inch, that my porch light was too bright, then too dim. That my garden hose didn't match the aesthetic of the neighborhood. I stayed polite. Always polite. But I documented everything. It escalated. She began filming me every time I stepped outside, narrating my life like some twisted nature show. Resident at 423, Maple Drive, mowing his lawn at 6:45 p.m., disturbing the peace during family dinner hours. Never mind that 6:45 was perfectly reasonable. She recruited her little army. Retired board members with nothing better to do than wander the neighborhood measuring mailbox heights and timing trash can pickups. One of them, Harold something or other, proudly informed me my mailbox was 1/2 inch too tall. I nodded, thanked him for the update, and added it to my growing file. Then came the letters. Printed on official HOA letterhead. Threatening fines and legal action over everything from shutter colors to flower density. They claimed my navy shutters weren't the approved shade of midnight blue. My welcome mat was too beige. My wind chimes were too melodic. They wanted obedience, not compliance. I stayed calm. Scanned every letter. Saved every email. Recorded every ridiculous encounter. My years in professional housing enforcement had taught me something: let people show you who they are. Let them build their own case, brick by incriminating brick. And Patricia? She was building fast. Then came the duct tape. It was a Tuesday. I'd taken the day off to paint the guest room. Around 10 o'clock in the morning, I heard rustling by the front door. I peered through the peephole and watched as Patricia, flanked by two of her loyal foot soldiers, began wrapping duct tape around the frame with practiced ease, like they'd done it before. 3 full rolls at least. Then she proudly slapped a pink violation notice in the middle and took several photos, like she was pinning a medal on a war hero. Once they'd left, I tried the door. It was sealed tight. But they'd forgotten about the back door. I circled around, phone in hand, filming every angle of their handiwork. The notice, covered in plastic, made wild claims about unsafe conditions and permit violations. I couldn't have asked for a better setup. I opened my laptop. As a state-certified housing inspector with the Department of Community Affairs, I had jurisdiction over all residential properties in the county, including HOA communities. Patricia had just committed false imprisonment against a government official, no less. That was a felony. But I wasn't stopping there. I pulled up public records. Patricia's house at 157 Oak Street hadn't had a permit pulled in over a decade, yet satellite images clearly showed a recent addition. Interesting. I dug deeper. The HOA business license. Expired 6 months ago. Their insurance. Lapsed. They were operating illegally. Then I hit pay dirt. The financials, public records for an incorporated HOA, showed thousands in dues collected but hardly any spent on maintenance. The playground was rusting. The newsletter bragged about security patrols that didn't exist. Patricia had been writing checks to a landscaping company owned by her brother-in-law. A management firm registered to the same address as her vacation home. This wasn't just harassment. It was fraud. I compiled everything into a report, attached video of my illegal imprisonment, and sent it to my supervisor with an urgent request for full inspection authority. The reply came within the hour: approved. And the state attorney's office wanted in. Next morning. 8:00 a.m. sharp. I knocked on Patricia's door, with 2 colleagues and a sheriff's deputy in tow. Her face when she saw me? Absolutely priceless. Shock. Then recognition. Then fear. I handed over my credentials and the inspection warrant. "Good morning, Miss Summers," I said. "We're here to conduct a compliance inspection." She blustered. Threatened to call a lawyer. The deputy calmly explained she could call whoever she wanted, as long as she didn't interfere. We went to work. Unpermitted addition. Aluminum wiring banned since the 70s. Black mold in the crawl space. A dangerously unstable deck. And in her home office? HOA records that told the full story. Personal expenses paid with HOA funds. Fake invoices. Emails about forcing undesirable homeowners to move. By noon, her house was blanketed in violation notices, fitting, considering what she'd done to my door. We moved to the community center, aka Patricia's private clubhouse. More violations. More paper trails. The state investigators practically cheered. That evening, the emergency HOA meeting was packed. Word had spread. Patricia sat in her usual spot, but this time it was a plain folding chair. No throne. I stayed in the back. Just another homeowner. The state attorney's rep outlined the charges: fraud, embezzlement, abuse of power, operating an unlicensed business. When it came time for a vote of no confidence, it was unanimous. Even Harold turned on her. She stood, shaking with fury, and pointed at me. This is all his fault. He's a spy. A plant. I stepped forward, showed my credentials, and calmly explained I was just a new neighbor. A homeowner who followed the rules, who didn't reveal his profession until the HOA taped him inside his own house. The crowd murmured. Nodded. Patricia slumped. Then the prosecutor stood. Patricia Summers, he said, you are charged with false imprisonment, fraud, embezzlement, and operating an unlicensed HOA. Civil penalties total over $200,000. She went pale. I want my lawyer, she whispered. The prosecutor nodded. You'll be formally served within 72 hours. The false imprisonment charge alone carries up to 5 years. Patricia's eyes glazed over. 5 years. As the meeting ended and the neighborhood buzzed with quiet vindication, I stepped outside into the cool night air. I looked around at the homes. The lawns. The quiet. Streetlights flickering on. A peaceful place it would be again. If you enjoyed watching this HOA nightmare unravel, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps more folks see stories like this. And if you want to see more real-life showdowns where justice wins in the end, make sure to subscribe.